The U.S. dedicated 24,000 words in their latest report on world human rights practices. Israel passed a law that reverses the 2005 disengagement from Northern Samaria. And the judicial reform protests in Tel Aviv are not what the media wants you to believe they are. I found this out because I went to the protests a few days ago for myself. I'm Luke, and this is the Israel Guys. Hello and welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, go ahead and hit subscribe on YouTube or hit subscribe on Rumble, or if you're listening, whatever platform you're listening on, give us a follow, a subscribe, and make sure you hit notifications so you don't miss out on any of our daily content. Guys, follow us on social media all across the internet at The Israel Guys. We are less than 200 people away from reaching 1,000 followers on Twitter, so help us out. I'm hanging out on there, loving to interact with you guys. Drop us a comment if you're a new subscriber. We are coming to the United States. I'm flying to the U.S. day after tomorrow, and I would love to see you guys in Nashville, Tennessee on March 26th, Houston, Texas on March 28th, or Dallas, Texas on March 30th at any of our Rally for the Heartland events. Go to theisraelguys.com/rally to RSVP for free. And I would love to see you guys there. We'll drop the link down in the description below. But there's only a few days left before the first rally event in Nashville. So if you guys want to see me, if you want to see Joshua Waller, some of our other team, as well as Nati Ram, a good friend and pioneer of ours from Samaria, come see us, not just to see us, but to rally in support of Israel's biblical heartland. The world needs to know that you guys support Judea and Samaria. Drop a comment down below if you're planning to be at one of the rallies so we can meet you guys in person. We'd love to see you there. In the news today, guys, Israel passed a historic law just last night. Today is Tuesday, March 21st. Last night, on Monday night, they passed the second and third readings of a law that will overturn the disengagement of Northern Samaria. So as part of the 2005 Gush Katif law that evacuated 8,000 people from the Gaza Strip and turned it over to the Palestinians, and then ultimately it was taken over by Hamas, and tens of thousands of rockets have been shot into Israel. The people of Gaza have been oppressed by the Hamas terrorist regime. As part of that same disengagement, a lot of people don't know that 4 Jewish communities, 4 settlements were destroyed in Northern Samaria. So I'm in Samaria right now on the Mount of Blessing, close to Nablus, but north of Nablus, there were 4 Jewish communities that were destroyed. The people were evacuated, including the current governor of the Samaria Regional Council, and all of the residents evicted. And since then, no one has been allowed to stay in that area or reside. No homes allowed to be built or anything like that. So historically, this right-wing conservative government has overturned the part of the law that restricted anyone from being in Northern Samaria. So basically overturned a bill from 17 years ago that removed and evicted the Jewish people from Northern Samaria. So absolutely historic. So what this is going to do is lifting the prohibition on anyone entering and staying in these parts of Northern Samaria. It will also regulate, which means approve, the Homesh Yeshiva, which you might remember is a yeshiva that was established in Northern Samaria so that the Jewish religious men could study and pray there. Also, a young man was shot and killed there in a terrorist attack not that long ago. So this is going to regulate the yeshiva and possibly allow residents to actually stay there, actually live there. Unfortunately, none of this new law applies to the Gaza Strip, as that would be a much, much bigger deal because Israel actually just turned the entire strip over to the Arab people, ultimately taken over by Hamas. A couple of quotes. Member of Knesset Orit Struk from the right-wing party said, quote, "This is a great day for the state of Israel. It's not just that we are not going back to Homesh and rebuilding the towns, but we are changing the movement. We are moving forward and not backward. We are blessed to have this moment." MK Yuli Edelstein, one of the initiators of the bill, said, quote, "The state of Israel tonight began its recovery process from the disaster of the expulsion," talking about the Gush Katif pullout. History has shown and continues to show us that whenever we give up parts of our homeland, we will receive increasing terrorism. It is a clear and well-known equation with results that never change. This is the first and significant step towards a real repair and establishment of Israel in the territories of the homeland that belong to it. And we know that that is absolutely true. When Israel gives up parts of their homeland, they get terrorism in return. The Western powers that be, including our current U.S. administration, wants Israel to give up land for peace. They want them to make concessions, to make compromises, to pull out the IDF out of certain areas. And what always happens, as we will see in another story in just a second, Israel gets violence and terrorism and their people being killed in response. So MK Yuli Edelstein saying that this is a major step, and it is massive. Potentially, this could lead to new communities being established or actually being reestablished in Northern Samaria, as well as maybe other disastrous laws being overturned and reversed. So this is very good news for the state of Israel. Our friends at Blessed by Israel ship the beautiful products of small businesses and families from Israel's heartland to people all around the world. You can now buy the wonderful tastes, smells, and goodness of the Promised Land. Check out their amazing extra virgin olive oil, savory spices, cosmetics, hand creams, soaps, lotions, chocolate, coffee, and a whole lot more. The best part about this is that at the same time you enjoy the goodness of the land of Israel, you are also blessing the faithful pioneers who are restoring and rebuilding Judea and Samaria. That's right, your purchases are an effective way to contribute to the strengthening of Israel. So head over to blessedbyisrael.com, that's blessedbyisrael.com, to buy the wonderful products of Israel's heartland and support the pioneers of Judea and Samaria. Again, that's blessedbyisrael.com. Link is in the description below. But I want to talk about an update on the judicial reform protests, because they've been going on now for almost 3 months. And according to the news media, they've been growing in numbers. A week and a half ago, the media reported 250,000 people protesting in Tel Aviv streets. An American news media outlet, one outlet reported that there was 500,000 people protesting in Tel Aviv. So this past Saturday night, we actually went to the protest with our cameras to check it out for ourselves. And I have to say, I was a little bit surprised and a little bit shocked, because it was not what I expected it to be. Now, because we had to leave after the Sabbath, we might have gotten there a little bit late, so maybe the protests had already been going on, but we encountered what we estimate to be about 25,000 people in total. By the time we had marched down the street, checking out the entire protest and come back, everyone had gone home. By 9:30 p.m., every single person had dispersed and gone home. Not only that, and hopefully we'll show you some B-roll footage on the screen so you can see it for yourself. I don't want to give away too much, because we're hoping to make a full-length video of what we encountered at the protest. But besides that, it was more of a parade and a party than it was a protest. Yes, there was people with signs, but there was people like marching with drums, and then everybody around was watching them, was filming them, was partying. This was like in the downtown middle of Tel Aviv, part of Tel Aviv nightlife. So a lot of people were there just having a good time. You could tell they were just hanging out. And it was not at all like what I expected of a massive, massive protest with tens or hundreds of thousands of people. It was like a bunch of people marching, having a good time. There was a considerable number of people with signs, but there was hardly any like speeches, chants, large groups of people banding together around one issue, except for one group of people that we encountered that was actually in process of packing up by the time we got there. But we got to the end of the protest, and we saw these massive banners hanging in the trees on the side of the road. And then we saw a table with T-shirts set where they were selling T-shirts and had brochures and information. And the sign said anti-occupation block. So I decided I had to check it out. So I walked up to them, asked what they were doing, and asked what it was about. And as soon as the words left my mouth, they immediately began, they immediately tried to shut me down. They said they had no interest in talking to me. And within about 30 seconds, someone looked at me and asked if I was part of Hayuvel, which is our organization, the Israel guys in Hayuvel. They immediately recognized me. These people were not there to protest the judicial reform. They were there to protest Israel's so-called occupation of the West Bank. And funny enough, I told them, I said, I promise not to argue with you. I simply want to hear your perspective and I want to get it on camera. And they just shut me down. And after a minute, they started screaming at us, screaming at my cameraman, because we didn't have permission to film them wherever. I was trying to ask for their permission, but we did have the camera turned on. But they were just absolutely hateful. I was trying to have a conversation. I was actually asking them to tell me their side and their position. Like, they were there to protest. And I said, so tell me what you're here for. And they just shut me down and then started screaming at me. And this is at the judicial reform protests in Tel Aviv. So end of the day, there was not nearly as many people there as we thought, as the media has been reporting. A lot of the people there seemed like they were just hanging out, having a good time, partying. And the most vehement, I guess, vocal, kind of hateful group there that was actually had a very organized part of the protest was the anti-occupation bloc, not actual people that were actually protesting the judicial reform. So all that to say is hopefully we'll be able to go back to the protest and get more footage and release a full video. And all that to say that, yes, there are protests about the proposed reforms happening. In other parts of Israel, there's even reports about unprecedented numbers of Israelis who are opting to leave Israel and move to other countries. But all that to say is, I think all the talk about Israel heading towards a civil war, this is the end of Israeli democracy, I think it's just way overblown by the media, and this is something that Israel will get through. And you'll see Israel kind of return back to normalcy, or we'll see some other big issue become the mainstream headlines, and everybody will kind of forget about all these protests and the judicial reforms. So, guys, starting to run out of time already, but I want to give you a few other headlines from Israel. This one's from the United States, but it pertains to Israel. The U.S. State Department just released their report on human rights practices around the world. And besides Iran and the Taliban and other, countries that are violating human rights, they devoted 24,000 words, which is about 50 full pages, to Israel. And among other things, they discussed abuses by Israel's security forces on things like, quote, significant human rights issues, unlawful or arbitrary killings, arbitrary or unjust detention, including of Palestinians in Israel and the occupied territories, and, quote, punishment of family members for alleged offenses by a relative. So instead of simply focusing on real human rights abusers of countries around the world, the United States State Department decided to devote 24,000 words to talking about the alleged and false human rights abuses by the most democratic country in the world, Israel. So Israeli, Palestinian, Jordanian, Egyptian, and U.S. officials met for the second time in the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh for discussions on how to diminish tensions in Israel, especially ahead of Ramadan, which is about to start here. This is the second time they've had these talks, right, about, all these countries coming together. How are we going to decrease tensions? How are we going to work together more? And if you remember, the first time they met was about a month ago. And at the exact same time that they were meeting, 3 Jewish Israeli people were killed in terrorist attacks. The 2 brothers, the Yaniv brothers in Hawara, and the American, I believe his name was Ilan Gonzalez, that was killed on the way to his best friend's wedding in Samaria. So, ironically enough, when this delegation met day before yesterday, the exact same day, former U.S. Marine David Stern was shot in the head in a terrorist attack again in Hawara. Thank God he's actually in stable condition, but please keep him in your prayers. If you want to hear the whole story, watch Josiah's show published on our channel yesterday. So, ironically, what are these officials and these official talks talking about? They're talking about how to cooperate together, how to increase security and put down violence, right? President Joe Biden welcomed the results of the meeting and said, quote, reinforce the need for all sides to take urgent, collaborative steps to enhance security coordination, condemn all acts of terrorism, and maintain the viability of a two-state solution. They always got to throw that two-state solution term in there. So, among other things, both sides agreed to multiple steps, like the PA agreeing to maintain security and curb violence in the West Bank. ironic, since every time they have this meeting and the PA says, yes, we need to, we'll do our job, and according to the Oslo Accords, right, in putting down violence, every time they have these talks, people get either killed or wounded in terrorist attacks at the exact same time in Israel. One other sad headline before we wrap up, and that is Or Eshkar, 32 years of age, passed away on Monday after a terrorist attack that he was in 11 days ago when he was hit by a terrorist bullet outside a cafe on the corner of disengagement Street in Tel Aviv. Not Judea and Samaria, not the West Bank. Terrorist attack, that a shooting spree. Multiple people were injured, and now Or Eshkar passed away from his injuries. Please keep his family in your prayers. Guys, don't forget to join us in person as we rally in support of Israel's heartland. We'll be hosting rallies in Nashville, Tennessee, Dallas, and Houston, Texas, March 26th, 28th, and 30th. That's only a few days away. If you want to RSVP, go to theisraelguys.com/rallies. And drop us a comment if you're coming, because I want to meet you guys. Don't forget to support Israel's heartland by purchasing beautiful boutique products from Judea and Samaria. Just go to blessedbuiisrael.com to have these products shipped straight to your door, or click the link below to support Israel's heartland that way. Make sure to subscribe, get that conversation going down below. As always, tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening here in the land of Israel. We're here every Monday through Friday with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.